There is a new murder by U.S. police that is actually getting mainstream coverage. Fatal shooting of Sonya Massey in her home. This happened in Illinois by Illinois State Police Monday afternoon. And I'm not going to play the video. I'm not saying it's not an important video. And I know that some people are, you're welcome to go watch it if it helps you understand the incident. But they were called by her. They weren't there to investigate her. They were called by her because she said a prowler was outside. This also goes to show never call the police unless it's your last option. But they were called by her. They show up. They see, I think, a broken or a cracked window of her car. And so they decide that gives them enough reason to investigate her. This also gets to the racist underpinning of all of these interactions. If this were a white person who called the police and had a cracked window of their car, something tells me the police would go, "Yeah, we didn't see a prowler. Good night." End of story. But instead, these police want to investigate her. They come into her apartment. They're talking to her. She goes to take the boiling, actually, at the recommendation of the cop says, "Why don't you take the boiling water off because we don't want to cause a fire." So she goes to take the boiling water off. He then backs up and she says, "Where are you going?" He says, "Away from your hot steaming water," which I think she might have misunderstood and maybe thought he was saying something crude at her or something. But she then says, "Away from my hot steaming water, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." And he says, "What?" She says, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." And then he shoots her and murders her. She says, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." He says, "You better fucking not." Really? Why don't I go, "Okay, you rebuked me in the name of Jesus." And then he then says, "I swear to God, I'll fucking shoot you right in the face." And then he shoots her and kills her. This is all because she said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus," which last I heard, you actually have a right to say you rebuke people in the name of Jesus. You can just do that to anybody. They don't have a right to then shoot and murder you. It's totally horrific. But again, I like to get to the core reality, the core understanding that we need to garner from something like this. When police murder someone, yes, there's outrage at those police officers. There should be. These police officers should be locked up for murdering this woman. There is understandable outrage often at the chief of police for, often we find out these officers had former complaints against them, like the ones who killed George Floyd and Eric Garner. They both had histories of strangling or kneeling on the throat of people and had just been kept out on the streets. These are criminals who are just kept on the streets as police officers. So yes, that type of discussion should be had, and perhaps it should be the first and foremost. But we also can get down to the deeper levels of reality, that our policing system is outrageous, it is brutal, it is disgusting writ large. You are inviting people with guns, usually jacked up, roided up. The estimates are 25% of all police officers in urban areas are abusing steroids, which cause roid rage, can cause poor decision-making, etc. On top of that, who is it that decides to join police, to become a police officer in this country? It's usually men, and it's usually men who are obsessed with authority, want authority, desperately want to make others bend to their will, which is dangerous. Before they got into police, desperately wanted the ability to, bend down and crush others. And then they're given that ability with a badge and a gun. Very dangerous. Who else is selected for policing across America? Usually not very bright people, because most police stations, it was found that it's actually legal to give possible cops a IQ test, and if they're too smart, not hire them. So some police departments literally will not hire smarter people as police officers. There's also the fact that, according to Captain Ray Lewis and others, some police departments give you empathy tests. And if you have too much empathy, they won't hire you. So they want dumb, low empathy, usually abusing steroids, quick to anger, crazy motherfuckers. That's who ends up in our police systems. And you get to the heart of what policing is in this country. It started as slave patrols, all right? And as far as I know, in the Western world, that was the first time that police were kind of on most street corners. Like you'd see them regularly just walking around. Before that time, yes, there was a sheriff or something, but you basically had to call the sheriff. And before telephones, that was no easy thing to do. You had to wrap a note around a pigeon's leg, and it's not easy. So it's very tough to wrap the note around the pigeon's leg when you're being chased by an axe murderer. You're trying to write on the little, because those pieces of paper on the pigeon, carrier pigeon's legs are very tiny. So you got to write, you're running and you're trying to write and then wrap it around the leg and then go, little guy, off to the sheriff's office. Very tough, very tough. despite that part being a joke, it is true that like slave patrols literally just giving white guys guns, or actually most of them, they'd say you have to bring your own gun. Basically, if you're a white guy, white man, and you have your own gun, then we will let you walk around the city and pester, arrest, harm, brutalize, what have you, any black people you see. That was kind of the beginning of the policing system that we now have. And you see that police in other nations, not all, but many other nations, they don't have guns on their hips unless they are like the SWAT team, unless they are this special group of people to deal with who their main focus is dealing with other armed people. The average cop you see, they may have something. They may have a baton. They may have some mace. I mean, until a few years ago, even the cops in, I don't know whether it was 20 or 30 years ago, but even the cops in Britain didn't have guns on their hip, except for very few of them. That's part of the reason they were not running around murdering people, because they didn't use the gun as the only tool. Even if they made poor decisions and attacked someone they shouldn't, and used every ability they had to harm someone they shouldn't be harming, they didn't have the ability to kill them very easily, unless they sat there whacking them with their little baton for a half an hour. You really gotta invest some time to kill someone with one of those batons. There's just so many levels of the policing system in the United States that is disgusting and wrong, and it's wrong at its core. And of course, if I need to mention this, neither Donald Trump or Kamala Harris will do anything about this. Trump loves every police officer he's ever met. When he was president, he did nothing but fund the police more. Kamala Harris called herself the top cop of California because she was the attorney general. She loves policing. She loves police. She will fund them as much as Trump. There is no difference between the two on our outrageous police system. And Kamala Harris worked to actually cover up police crimes when she was attorney general in California. And now we have, to bring it back to the surface level, now we have yet another horrific murder. The only thing that makes this perhaps a little unique is that we actually got the video quickly, which I did a large segment the other day about how rare it is to get the body camera video that actually shows what happened quickly after a murder. Generally, the police departments do everything they can to cover it up. Eventually, maybe you'll get the body cam footage, but that's really what makes the difference in this one, is that it makes it different than most, is that we're seeing the person these cops killed. They killed, U.S. cops killed 1,200 a year, if you believe their numbers, 2,400 if you believe the Lancet Medical Journal. And how many of those do we get body camera footage of? Well, here's one. So one, I mean, without it being 5 years later when no one's paying attention. So one, maybe. Two, maybe we get two of the body cam footage. Very sad murder by these insane, unhinged police.